The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of WCZT, Regional Media, Coastal Broadcasting, personnel, or advertisers. Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
This is important because it's your money.
Your money.
Money Talk with Melanie
Money Talk with Melanie.
on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your host, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from beautiful Wildwood, New Jersey. It is a gorgeous but chilly evening, and I am happy to be back with you this evening. Our guests this evening, the first hour, is social selling corporate consultant and lifespan facilitator, Dana Roefer. She's going to talk to us about shop local, connect with the people and the products that support your best life. And then in hour two, I will have author John Egan, who will talk the stripped down guide to content marketing, success secrets for beginners. So very excited to talk to each of those guests this evening about their corresponding topics. But before we do, a little bit of news. I think probably the biggest news story this week is the collapse of the cryptocurrency company FTX, which we talked a little bit about last week when things first jumped off. And things have gotten much worse for the would-be billionaire who it really seems to have pulled off, allegedly, a Bernie Madoff type scam. And scammed so many people out of so much money. But the first in line right now is the, Bahamas. And apparently FTX spent $256 million on Bahamas real estate, and the island is trying to get that money back from the gentleman who owned the company. I can't recall his name right now, but I'm going to bring it right up. Sam Bankman-Fried is the name of the gentleman who owned the company. And Bahamian lawyers are trying to get, or Bahamian lawyers are trying to get some of that $256.3 million in property back. The problem that they're having is there's a bankruptcy involved. So Bahamas regulators have tried to appeal to the bankruptcy judge to see if they can claim ownership over those FTX-owned properties, which are located in New Providence, Bahamas. Apparently, like I said, they spent $256 million on some 35 properties in the Bahamas. And the regulators there tell the Delaware federal court judge that allowing the properties to be administered in U.S. courts would be both administratively ineffective and illegal under Bahamas law, which I think is an interesting argument, but to say the least. And that is just one of the many problems that this person has. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know why. And they say it all day long, every day. They've been saying it on the news. You think he's notorious. Sam Bankman-Fried. I have to remember that. Sam Bankman-Fried. In addition to that, he's not taking responsibility. There's another report that Sam Bankman-Fried is accusing, or blaming, I should say, grossly inexperienced owners for the collapse of his company. And he also says that customer money funded risky Alameda trades. Well, it sounds to me like it's something that he definitely did. The prosecutors say it was a huge scam. FTX CEO John Ray III said that the cryptocurrency exchange's collapse was on the head of founder and chief executive Sam Bankman-Fried and his top executives. He told Congress that they gambled with customers' money without any safeguards to protect their investments, which is absolutely ridiculous. There's rules and laws against those things. And so I think Sam Bankman-Fried is in a world of trouble. In fact, he was to testify in front of Congress, I believe it was yesterday, and ended up getting arrested. Now, if you recall, one of the things that I talked about last week was the fact that there were tons of people who accepted campaign donations, politicians who accepted campaign donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, we're talking like in the millions of dollars, mostly on one side of the aisle, mind you. Some Republicans did, but many, many, many Democrats did, and he supported a lot of Democrat causes. And it just, when I heard he got arrested right before he was about to testify in front of Congress, I smelled a rat. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise. But common sense tells me that if those powerful people were involved in getting money from this guy, you're darn right they don't want him to testify in front of Congress. Well, he'll have to tell the truth. He'll have to name names as to who got how much money and how come he was not regulated. Nobody checked in on him. I'm sure there's some questions that people are going to ask that'll be super uncomfortable for him and for some of the members of Congress. And I suspect that's what was behind his arrest. Many legal experts, read several articles on this, are shocked that he was arrested right before he was supposed to testify in front of Congress, because that would have given, prosecutors the opportunity to hear his side of the story. It would have given everybody the opportunity to hear his side of the story. He would have had to answer questions under oath. And, those people, all that information would have been relevant and could have been used in this trial. So I feel like maybe the reason why is because it was going to make a whole lot of people look bad if he got a chance to testify. That's just a theory. I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I think. You have good news for seniors or anyone who is a Social Security recipient. There is going to be an allowance hike very, very shortly, starting in 2023. It's a cost of living increase of 8.7%. And here's what you can look for in your annual statements. So this is the government's way of addressing high inflation, is by giving this cost of living hike. As your statements roll in, you should be able to troubleshoot some errors that might be able to cost you. Also, you need to keep in mind that if you have a higher income this year, that might affect your income taxes and your Medicare premiums surcharges in the future. So you need to bear that in mind as you get this increased money, that those are the figures that are used to calculate those things. So there's an increase of 8.7% in 2023 because of the high cost of living, which no doubt it is. The 8.7% increase is the highest in 40 years, which also corresponds with the highest inflation that we've had in 40 years. It's a significant cost of living jump because previous beneficiaries in 2022 only got a 5.9% cost of living increase. But an increase is an increase. But like I said earlier, the increase is a double-edged sword. You have to be careful because it can lead to different penalties and things when it comes to your taxes. So you just have to be very careful about how you handle that. But more money is usually going to be a good thing, I would say. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. My guest the first hour in a few moments is Dana Roefer. She's going to talk to us about social shopping. We'll be back in a few minutes.
What would you say if I told you becoming an IRS enrolled agent is just a keystroke away? It is, with the professional education provided by the TaxMama. Yes, the TaxMama offers both live and self-study tax courses to get your new lucrative career off the ground. It's your life, your schedule. deal. Seize the opportunity to excel with the Tax Mama. Right now, visit irsexams.school and discover your path towards becoming a respected tax professional. Tax law, tax practice, it's all covered, along with all of the study tools you need. The Tax Mama is here for your new career. Visit irsexams.school and launch your career today.
Repair your credit for only $299 one time. If you have high interest rates or credit card lates, bankruptcies, repossessions, slow pays, or student loan debts, don't hesitate. Act now to get your credit straight. Log on to MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz. Call 800-878-1837. That's 800-878-1837. On the internet, it's MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. My first guest is Dana Roefer. She is a social selling corporate consultant and LifePlan facilitator who is on a mission to help women recognize their worth, live with intentionality, and transform their buying habits. An active social shopper, she believes that building a micro community of experts with a vested interest in your well-being is the key to optimal, focused investing in yourself, your home, and your family. Dana is an advocate for entrepreneurship and supports women who have found financial independence and personal and professional fulfillment through starting their own businesses. She is dedicated to showing potential social shoppers how they can change their lives by relying on their circle of entrepreneurs, their social sellers. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dana Roefer to the show.
Hey, Melanie. It's so good to talk with you tonight.
Hi, it's good to talk with you. Is there anything that I didn't mention in your bio that you'd like the audience to know?
Oh, no. Goodness. I've been listening to your show, and I think we have so many things that common interest that we could go on forever, but you nailed it in the intro. I could go down so many different routes that I would love to talk to you about, but we're good.
I know that feeling. I definitely know that feeling.
Entrepreneurship, education, finances, like all the things.
Exactly. And it's all the things. All of those things are important, right?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that I had to figure out, because I have to admit I didn't know what you were talking about when you said social shopping. And it's one of the reasons I asked you to come on the show, because I thought if I, who am immersed in this money thing, have no idea what that is, then some of my listeners probably don't either. So could you explain what social shopping is?
Yeah, I think right now, well, I know we live in a social era, right? And there's always opportunities for people to make money. And I think that opportunities or non-traditional opportunities to make money have been around forever. And I think that now going into social, it's kind of that making money opportunities, building businesses in a non-traditional way meets social media that I think has us at this really interesting place. So, in the past, in a lot of my corporate career was in the direct selling space. So, call it network marketing, social selling. There's multi-level marketing. There's a lot of different names, right? But essentially, you sell products that a company makes and distributes to your customers, right? That's the gist of it. Now I see that so many companies are moving into this space. So whether it's through affiliate sales or different e-commerce type sales and channels where you can get commissions, things like that. So I see that there's this whole channel that's been around for a long time, but is evolving as social media evolves. So it's kind of where those two things intersect.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Now, I think this is probably obvious. So why would you want to, like, what's the difference between going to, say, Amazon and social shopping?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked that question. So a lot of this came out of my own personal desire to say, I want to change my life. We went through some challenges with my mom's health. And it was really a wake-up call for me. This is 2021. It's still fresh, honestly, Melanie. And I said, I want to make changes. And I kind of grew up around this space, was trying to figure it out. And here's the difference. if you go to a store, even Amazon online store, or you go to like your local big box store, if you stand in aisles like, say, the supplement aisle or the shampoo aisle or the cleaning aisle, any of these products that you're using continually, but they're also adding or taking away from your family's health. When I'm standing in those aisles, I don't have anyone to ask what's the right thing for me and why, right? So you are continually just stuck with whatever that bottle says, or maybe you're shopping based on price. And this happens on Amazon too, right?
Right.
What I love about social shopping is what I've found and what I've built in support of like my desire to get healthier and to make better choices is that there are women and men that have businesses that can help me to make better decisions. So when I'm in one of those aisles, so I wouldn't go to the aisle, I would actually shop from them, but it's what is the right supplement routine for me, or what is the right hair care routine for me. I mean, my stylist helps me with that too, right? But also cleaning supplies and those types of things that you're buying on a daily basis, but you can have people come alongside you that can really speak to helping you make those decisions.
Okay. And that does make sense. And
Yeah.
that's better than, I guess, arbitrary reviews where these days you can't really necessarily
Oh, goodness.
tell if they're valid or not.
Yeah, and it's not personal, right? And I love reviews. I'm so grateful that we have them. And don't get me wrong, I buy things online all the time. But I think that there's this human, personal element that is missing in so many of those things. Reading what somebody writes, you don't know that person. You don't know, they don't know you, right? So if something worked for them, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And there's no way for you to have a two-way relationship to talk it through.
That is very true. I was just reading a review for a product. Actually, they were on social media. It was an ad for a product that I just started using. I happen to love it, right?
Yeah.
So I've been recommending it to people. It's actually called Mud Water. They can feel free to send me a check. But it's supposed to be a coffee substitute, right? I like it, and I didn't think that I would. Now, I've been recommending it to people, and people on the thread were like, it tastes terrible, it's awful. And I'm like, wow, I think it tastes pretty good. So that just speaks to what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's that new mushroom coffee that's out.
Yeah.
And people were saying that it tasted terrible, and I don't think it tastes terrible at all. I thought it tastes shockingly good. But you're right, like it depends on, in that particular instance, it depends on your taste buds and what your preferences are.
Yeah. And now here's the thing, right? So what Mudwater could do, and maybe does, I don't know, I don't know much about their business, but could they build a commission or affiliate link that you could then share that product with people? Maybe they could try it, you could give them a sample, you could share it with them, and then every time that you shared it with them, you get a commission link, right? I mean, that is social selling in social shopping. It is getting paid in order to, like, you're sharing those things that you love and you really care about with people that you know.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, a lot of companies are doing it now. They did do that,
Totally.
and I recommend. Well, what they do is they give you $20 off your next order, which is significant.
Yep.
And
if
I
you're buying
did that.
anyways, absolutely. Yep.
Yep, I did that, and they did it immediately. My next order, I had $20 off.
See, this is where, and I think that this is where a lot of businesses are going, and it's being able to harness those relationships that people have built, right? And we all have them. Like, we all have relationships with people that they trust us for certain things. And then if we flip it and think about ourselves as consumers, like, who are those people that we can find that can help us in different areas that we might still need help?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. All right, so let's say you decide to kind of pursue this avenue. How do you kind of start? If you wanted to, say you wanted to be a social shopping seller, not just a buyer.
A seller, yeah. I mean, honestly, you just brought up the perfect example. You just brought up a perfect example. Find the companies that you love. If they have these opportunities already, then take advantage of them, right? In this case that you just gave the example of, it's essentially they're putting $20 towards your next order. You're not necessarily building something for the long term, but it is saving you that money because it's a credit, right? It's a credit towards something else. I think taking advantage of those opportunities anytime that you can is good. If somebody wants to build a business, so if they went down a traditional kind of social selling model type company, and that doesn't mean you have to build a business and build a team. You can also just sell products to people. But in a lot of these companies, you have a kind of forever link, right? So if I shared something with you, Melanie, forever and for always, whenever you go back to your registered account, you're continually getting paid on that. So like every time you share that, or I go back to my account that I'm registered in, Melanie gets paid on that. And so I think there's a lot of them out there. A lot of times we tend to kind of put up our hands like, oh, this is just another, scheme, make money scheme, those types of things. And there are those out there. Like, don't get me wrong. There certainly are. And so that's why I think people just have to figure out, it always works best if you first fall in love with a product instead of going into it like, I'm going to do this thing because I want to make money. Right. I think if you have a product that has changed your life in some way, and you've seen people that have lost a tremendous amount of weight and kept it off, or they got into a really good workout routine and it changed their body, or they've seen changes in their hair or their gut health. There's so many things that cleaning up the toxins in their home through their cleaning products that they use. Like, there's so many different products that people can fall in love with, and then they just have to take that next step to say, okay, I know that I already love this and I use it and I'm buying it, but I also want to share it with other people because I've seen the difference that it's made for me, and then they take that step to share it with others. So there are a lot of companies out there. And probably, if you're spending any time on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever, LinkedIn, you're probably seeing people talk about opportunities or products, right? So I think, to me, it's just keeping an open mind and open ears to kind of listen for those things that feel might be right for you.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. And I would think that you really have to, if you want to do it as a business, that you really have to try to promote those products and like be heavy on the promotion. Are there some preferred ways to promote things when you're doing the social shopping thing?
Yeah. So for sellers, and I admittedly come from the corporate side. I don't sell anything. Right. I come from the corporate side, and I am a shopper. So I've chosen to support many, 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 many friends that have their own big businesses. That's just been my personal choice. The successes that I've seen, and there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are my personal friends, what I see is successful is the same thing that's successful in any type of business, right? So these are the people that are really living their brand, and they are open, and they're talking about, and this is social in general, right? We see those that we follow, the influencers that we follow, they're talking about their lives really authentically, but then they're also authentically moving their product or whatever it is throughout those conversations. But it's not like a commercial, right? Where you can be sitting watching TV and a commercial comes on and you're watching a commercial. But what I see with a lot of my friends is like, hey, I'm getting ready and these are the things I'm using. But it very much flows within their life because, again, if we go back to the conversation we just had, they first fell in love with the products. And so it's really easy for them to talk about how these products impact them in their lives, in their family, in their home, because that's why they chose to represent these products anyways. So I think there's a natural flow of conversation through social that we have the opportunity now that we haven't necessarily had. We didn't necessarily have a decade ago, right?
That's for sure. And, I was just thinking of a thread. Somebody posted something on social media not too long ago and said, I think the thread was, the post was something like, post good advice, any advice, just post it. And there were so many good tips on there. One of the things I picked up was a skincare thing. And it is like the best thing ever, and it's cheap. Like, it was. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where has this been my entire life? And there was tons of stuff like that on that thread. You know, I suggested some things, and people were like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I was talking about how peppermint essential oil gets rid of ants. And people were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, and your kitchen will smell like peppermint, like bonus.
Yeah, we do it. We spray. Like, we'll take peppermint oil and mix it with water and, like, spray it under the kid's bed to make sure there's no, like, spiders or anything. Like, totally. There are all those things. But I think what you saw there, Melanie, is somebody just really casually talking about something that they love. I think where entrepreneurs in general, so I'm not even talking about this channel, when they're just starting out, it can be hard, right? Like, I mean, think about before you started your show, right? It's hard to take those first steps and start talking about it because you're like, do people know me as this? I'm not really sure. Or is this going to feel like it came out of the blue? And it takes some time to build that confidence. But what you found in that thread is somebody was just saying, like, hey, give me advice. They're not saying, what do you sell?
Right.
And then somebody is coming in and saying, well, I sell this and I think you should buy it. Like, no one wants to have that conversation, but people want to, like, if your skin is glowing, they want to know why your skin is glowing, right?
True.
And so then you're able to share why those things are happening. And if it happens to connect to a product, awesome. If it happens to be because you're now drinking a gallon of water and you used to not even drink 8 ounces, like, that's a really important advice also.
That's true. That is also very good stuff. But yeah, I wish I could have read the whole thread. There were so many comments. I couldn't even read them all, but I definitely picked up some decent tips. One of which was this stuff called bio oil, which I assumed was super expensive, and it was like $6. I was shocked. And it works really, really well. It's great stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's probably going to cost $50 now. Now that I said that.
So now, Melanie, we have now found 2 different products that you need to be able to get commissionable links on because you've shared 2 very specific products already.
Right, and it'll not only on a live radio, but it'll be on the podcast, like over and over again. So, for sure.
But I think that's the whole conversation, right? And that's those of you listening, like, this is normal. Like, we're constantly talking about the things that we love. We're constantly finding new things that we love, and we want to share those things with other people. It has never been easier to make money doing those things, honestly, because companies have figured out that it is valuable to put affiliate links in the hands of ordinary people. Well, whether you want just, here, share this link and you get $20 off your next purchase, or share this and we'll give you a $10 commission, or whatever it may be. There are so many opportunities like that. So I would encourage people, like, if there is a product that you love, see if there's an opportunity behind it to share it, because there might be.
And there are. This one company, every time I jump on the app, it says, like, earn, $600 if you get 2 people. And I'm like,
oh, goodness.
I don't have a huge following. I have like 10,000 people on Facebook, and, about the same on my other social media platforms. But you got to figure, if you posted those, once a week and one person did it, right? Every month, I would at least be getting money off of the products that I already buy, and that's worth something.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't think it has to be this massive hurdle. And you say, you don't have a massive following. Companies now, and I've seen this going around, so I don't have the original research, but I've actually heard that around the 10,000 follower count is like the most valuable count.
Oh.
Because when you get really high, so people will so you're in the kind of micro influencer bucket, right?
Right.
But a lot of times when you get big, and you get a lot of opportunities when you get really big, but those followers become less engaged, right? So maybe they're coming for a specific thing or this or that. But when you're around that 10,000, 15,000 follower count, your followers are very engaged. So the people that are coming are engaging with you. And so you'd be surprised. Like, I think there's this feeling of, I don't have enough followers, and so who's going to listen to me and what would they buy from me? But I think you'd be surprised. I think that you would be surprised that they really are connecting with you and would want to buy the things that you like. And it's not always this more is better, because the connection can be stronger when there's actually less.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad I mentioned that. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. That we have about 1 minute left till break. You talk about in your book that there's a negative impact that traditional media can have sometimes, as well as social media, as far as your shopping habits. Can you give me a quick and dirty just example of just the regular media, traditional media, and the negative impact it can have?
Yeah, so it's a lot of pressure, right? So I think we find ourselves under a lot of pressure. If we have to do all of these things, we have to buy all of these things in order to be what? Right? And it leaves this big question, but yet this lingering anxiety around all the things that we should be and maybe we're not. Because again, you're seeing everybody's highlight reel on social media. In media, a lot of times you're seeing a lot of the doom and gloom. So it's all heavy. I mean, it feels like a lot of it is heavy. And so I hope that, and I write a lot through the book, like I hope that women, I mean, the book is primarily for women. I hope that women can just find clarity and intentionality of what is true for them and kind of just shut down that noise.
I agree with you. And we'll talk about that a little more on the other side of the break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. My guest this hour is Dana Roefer. She's a corporate consultant and LifePlan facilitator. And we're talking about the benefits of social shopping. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today.
Repair your credit for only $299 one time. If you have high interest rates or credit card lates, bankruptcies, repossessions, slow pays, or student loan debts, don't hesitate. Act now to get your credit straight. Log on to MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz. Call 800-878-1837. That's 800-878-1837. On the internet, it's MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. This hour, we're talking with Dana Roefer about shopping social. And we were talking about, before the break, the negative influence or impact that traditional media, social media, and other people can have on our shopping habits. And it is just very true that you can observe things on social media, particularly if it's not, I mean, listen, everybody can use their social media however they want, but I think people do have a tendency, as you kind of alluded to have like this inauthentic persona on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to show the hard days, right? Like, we got to live them. We don't want to share them necessarily.
That's true. I think that, or some people only share the horrible stuff. Like, some people like only have negative stuff to post. It's bizarre.
I don't think I follow those ones.
Listen, you do yourself well. I actually just unfollow people like that. When I find myself just getting legitimately angry when I read somebody's post, I'm like, why am I following this person?
Why am I doing this?
Right, exactly. This does not make any sense. I'm just going to unfollow them and then move on with my life because they're ridiculous. But, at one point, a person had said to me, I had posted some pictures at some event or something, and they said, your life seems so glamorous. And I was like, ma'am, my life is is so not glamorous. And my producer, Sam, is looking at me and saying, if you could see her right now, you would know how totally not glamorous.
But that's the perception, right? The perception is that everyone else has it figured out. I don't. Everyone else is doing all of these things. I'm not. Even what I am doing is not enough. And it's just totally unhealthy and untrue, honestly. And I think that we need more proper perspective of, I mean, sometimes you look into people's lives or you get a glimpse, but then you need to step back. And I try and do this a lot. I step back and I'm like, honestly, would I actually want that life? And then I have to answer the question, yes or no, because you have to ask yourself and do some of that self-reflection too, because otherwise you will get drawn to it and you will think that everything isn't wrong. I mean, that's where, just general practices and gratitude of recognizing all the things that you do have and how great your life can be. And not from a big standpoint, right? Like I woke up this morning and I have a roof over my head. Like it doesn't have to be I reached all these amazing goals, but just recognizing that what you do have is what you have, and we can be grateful for that, whatever this season is, even when it's hard.
I agree with that. I agree with that completely. And quite frankly, I think the older you get, because I'm a woman of a certain age, and the more you are around different people, like even people who have a lot more money than you or whatever the case may be, if you talk to those people and they're relatively down to earth and not, jerks, which you can have, there's poor people who are jerks too. But but if you actually have a relationship with some of these people who have lots of money, what you'll find is that the problems are human problems. They're the same.
Right.
They just happen to have more money and it's on a different scale. Right. You know what I mean? Like if I lose $20 in a parking lot, I might be, really upset. If Oprah loses $20 in a parking lot, she's not going to say boo, but she might not say boo if she uses $20,000 in the parking lot. Right. But she probably at some point has lost it doing something. But that's relative to her life. Like it's all, you're still going to have problems as long as you're here. So, we, like you were saying, you need to put that in perspective and, God forbid, don't model your shopping habits after what you think other people are doing. Right. Because it is perception. I used to teach in my other life financial literacy to high schoolers. Mm-hmm. And, I would tell them that when you see a person who has a big old house and a fancy car and all that stuff, many times what you're not seeing is a fancy life. What you're seeing is stress and a lot of debt. Is what you're seeing. So it's all perspective.
Yep. I saw a meme on social media the other day, and it cracked me up because it was a meme, right? But what it said was the kid brought $2 to their mom and said, "Here, I want to buy an iPad," and she was like, "You can't buy an iPad for $2. And he was like, "Well, you bought a house and you didn't. So why can't I buy an iPad for $2? Because you bought a house for X amount of dollars. You only had this much." And he kind of understood it, right? But it made me laugh. But it's so true. It's so true because you don't know. And I'm actually sad that was your past life because it's super important. And we need more people teaching kids, high school kids, financial literacy.
Yeah. But
you're totally right. There's so much that we don't see, right? Go down the list: financial, relational, mental, spiritual, physical, like all those areas that we want to try and have health, right? And we only can see what we can see. And to assume that all those areas are at a strong health for someone else and then you need to be, that's crazy. what you need to do is focus. Now, like, LifePlan facilitation's coming in, but we have to look at ourselves and say, like, okay, where am I? Where is my financial health? Where is my physical health, my mental health, my relational health, my spiritual health? Like, where are all of those things? Because I can only control me, right? Like, I can control how I react to the things that I see, but I can't control anything else. Outside of my own self and my own life.
Yep. And you look at, different celebrities or, different people that committed suicide or have a drug problem or have all these things going on. And then when something happens to them, people are shocked because on social media, it looked like everything was all good.
I mean, that happened today, unfortunately.
Yes.
There was a big case today, and it's so hard and it's so heartbreaking because exactly what you said, everything looked amazing.
Exactly. Everything looked amazing. And you mentioned diet culture being very similar and how it impacts our views on nutrition and on our body image.
Yeah.
Is shopping social more beneficial than our traditional way of looking at shopping as far as nutrition and body image is concerned?
So I think it can be if one is ready for it. So I talk a lot in my book about my own personal struggles with weight, with really weight. I wouldn't say that I started focusing on health until the last few years. Before that, I was very focused on weight. And what happens when you're very focused on weight, you're not focused on health.
True.
And they're different. They're different things. And so I had in my mind for 20 years, close to 20 years, that I had this magical number, and I talk about the magical number in the book, this magical number that I had, that I weighed in high school, mind you, that I believed that is where I was supposed to be. And if I wasn't there, I was constantly like beating myself up about it and frustrated about it and playing all the games because I was so focused on weight. Now, I've learned, again, thank God for age, because I think that wisdom comes with age.
True.
And you can have proper perspective and be like, time out. Was that health? Like, was I actually healthy? Like, how did I feel? I didn't know. I didn't know how to articulate those things throughout the last 20 years. Now I do. So I've had friends that have come alongside me that have actually been able to help me really understand, like, what is health and having good energy and having good sleep and feeling like I can function really well with my family and I can show up and I can be present. And those are the things now that I focus on. I don't care about what my weight is, but I'm doing the right things, right? I'm eating the right things some of the time. I didn't say most of the time, some of the time. Nutrition is always my greatest challenge because I have a terrible sweet tooth. But I exercise, and because I have someone that comes alongside me to do that and to encourage me to bring accountability. So I have found that as I've reached out to other people and said, hey, I want to try this product or I want to try this exercise program. Can you help me through this? Because I want to feel a certain way, not because I want to weigh a certain amount. Because every time I reached that number, that magical number, it wasn't sustainable. Because my body was like, Dana, what are you doing? Like, no, you've had 2 children. Like, no,
like this is not you.
High school Dana, like that's not healthy. And it took me a really long time to wake up to that. But I'm so glad now that I have, because I think it can help encourage others too to like let go of the number, let go of the weight, the diet culture, the lose 20 pounds in 10 days, all of it, right? Because there's just a lot of noise there. And I think the shift to health, for me anyways, has been hugely beneficial. And it has been because I invited others to come alongside me to help me.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that sometimes you definitely do need that assistance, particularly when it comes to nutrition and body image. And I think, I'm typically not for what the media does a lot of times, especially with advertising, like it feels like pandering. And I typically don't like that. But I will say, as a girl who's curvy,
Same. So
That
nice.
right? That sometimes when you see clothes on a model, you're like, okay, I have no frame of reference for how that is going to look on me because she's not even in the ballpark. But and now they're starting to, I think they're kind of going too far now. Like they're having really, really, really obese women model thing, which I guess if you're that size, maybe you want to see that as well.
Yeah.
But
again, there's a focus of like, what is health, right? And I think we have to be real about that too, of at which point is your heart functioning properly and you don't get winded when you're walking outside, right? Like, so I think it's tricky, but you can find all that proper perspective. I agree with you. I do think that it's gotten better than where we were. Certainly when I was growing up. I mean, when I was growing up, it was all stick thin, it was like,
right. Nobody had a booty. Nobody had a chest.
Right.
Nobody had anything. And it's like, okay, how am I supposed to put that on myself?
Right.
Like, because there's stuff. There's curves and stuff. So, like, that outfit is not going to look the same on me. So now they're doing a better job. Like, I think there should be, if there's any kind of diversity, that's where diversity in advertising and shopping should be, is definitely when it comes to different body types and weights and things like that. I think that's a good thing. And not from a, like, people not feeling bad about themselves, just from a perspective of how do I know how that's going to look on me? It's hard to tell because it's on a stick figure and hardly anybody looks like that.
Totally. Yeah. But like, find me all the websites that I can search for clothes, that I can search based on figure, right? That I'm like an hourglass figure. Like, let me search. Some of them you can now as the technology's gotten better, but I like all of them. Just let me do it for all of them.
Right?
Like, let me put in my measurements, and then you tell me exactly what is going to be the right thing for me.
And
I actually hate shopping. It's
I don't try on clothes. I don't try on anything ever. I'm so terrible. I never try. I just order it, and if it doesn't fit, I donate it. That's my. I'm like, somebody just got a new outfit. Great.
It is such a terrible process. I mean, it's awful. I am the queen of. If I go to an actual store, I will buy. If I find one or two things that I like, I'll buy it in every color, and then I'll end up taking 60% back every time. Like, never fails. I end up, what a waste of time.
Oh, right? It certainly is a waste of time. So if you what's the name? Tell people the name of your book. We're approaching the close of the hour. So tell people the name of your book, where they can find you on social media, and anything else that we haven't talked about that they could learn in the book. I know that was a lot, but go.
Yeah. So the book is called Shop Social. Again, ironic because I don't like shopping, but I don't like shopping in the traditional sense. So Shop Social, connect with the people and products that can help you live your best life. Because it is really about you finding clarity and intentionality around what that best life means to you, and then finding the people that can help support you in getting there and getting to where you want to go. So that's what the book is. You can find me I'm just Dana Roefer everywhere. That is the gift of my husband having a name that is super rare, and it's not like fine. So DanaRoefer.com, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn.
Nice. Very good. Thank you so much, Dana. Very informative. We appreciate having you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking with you, Melanie. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Have a great night.
What good is being retired if you're bored or broke? It's time to establish a new lucrative career where you can work from home and help your family, friends, and community fix IRS tax problems, audits, and balances due. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. Get a 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now and get your new career started today.
Repair your credit for only $299 one time. If you have high interest rates or credit card lates, bankruptcies, repossessions, slow pays, or student loan debts, don't hesitate. Act now to get your credit straight. Log on to MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz. Call 800-878-1837. That's 800-878-1837. On the internet, it's MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics
Money Talk with Melanie.
on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. If you missed the first hour, shame on you. You missed our guest, social selling corporate consultant and lifespan facilitator, Dana Roefer. She talked to us about Shop Social, connect with the people and products that support your best life. That is the name of her book. And she talked to us about the benefits of shopping socially and selling in the social sphere rather than just using traditional shopping methods. It was a pretty good hour. If you missed it, you can catch up by listening to Money Talk with Melanie when it's posted as a podcast right here on 98.7 The Coast's website or anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio, Spotify, anything like that. You can pick up Money Talk with Melanie there. You can even ask Alexa to play some Money Talk with Melanie, and she will play it via Audible. You could also find a link on any of my social media at Money Talk Mel on Twitter or at Money Talk with Melanie on Facebook. And even on LinkedIn, believe it or not, I post my stuff there too. So you can always catch up with the show there. Our guest the second hour is author John Egan. He's going to talk to us about the stripped down guide to content marketing, success secrets for beginners. I feel like this goes hand in hand. There is a method to content marketing. And so we're going to talk to John Egan about what it is, what it isn't, and how you can be successful at content marketing. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the news. Let's see, what did I leave off? This is not necessarily new, but I don't know if people realize this. I ran into an article that said student loan forgiveness could fall through for 30 million borrowers. If it happens, consider these 4 relief options, since what's happening is the Biden administration has been taken to court about his student relief being unconstitutional, and so far he's losing. So, and he might ultimately lose. So what happens if he ultimately loses and that program cannot go through, which, by the way, it is unconstitutional. You can't, the reason why it's unconstitutional is, as powerful as the president is, you are not allowed to constitutionally spend that kind of money with the stroke of a pen. You have to spend that kind of money by getting the approval of Congress first. And he kind of he skipped a step there. And so that's why it's being challenged. So if they're successful, then people are going to be looking for other relief measures, of course. So there's some existing policies that include options for deferring payments if you're financially struggling or filing for bankruptcy. Now, most times your federal loans, as far as I know, are not covered under bankruptcy, only your personal ones. So one of the things that happened, like I said, is that there have been legal challenges. So here are some options for you. You can defer payments once the payments resume, because President Biden keeps kind of like giving us little holidays as far as paying on student loans. So once they resume, you can defer your payments. You could also avail yourself of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. They recently made a number of improvements to that program, and it allows you to work for the government and certain nonprofits to get your debt cleared after a decade of payments. But what I read today was that they were including quite a few things in that forgiveness. Now, there's typically 3 types of requirements for the public service loan forgiveness. Although there's even more wiggle room because they made changes, I would say as late as today. I saw a tweet about it. Your employer has to be a government organization at any level. That's a 50C3, like a not-for-profit or some other type of not-for-profit organization. Your loans, these apply to federal loans only. And to reach forgiveness, you need to have made 120 qualifying on-time payments in an income-driven repayment plan or the standard payment plan. The best way to find out is you can log on. You could do a Google search for PSLF, and all the criteria and stuff will come up right away, and you can look into applying. Another option is to find a more affordable repayment plan. They have something called an income-driven plan, and with that plan, it tries to make borrowers' payments more affordable by capping their monthly bills at a percentage of their discretionary income and forgiving any remaining debt after 20 or 25 years, which is crazy, right? And then the fourth is to file for bankruptcy protection. The Biden administration recently announced that updated guidelines will make it easier for those who are severely burdened by their student debt to get it discharged, which is wild because it used to be that you couldn't do that at all. And now apparently you might be able to. So those are 4 options for you to look into in case the student loan forgiveness situation doesn't come through. But by the way, that was only for $10,000 to begin with. So you may want to look into, if you have more debt than that and you worked for a not-for-profit, you might want to look into that. Anyway, now a couple of months ago, there was a story about, I want to say it was over in England, tried this experiment to do 4-day work weeks. And how that 4-day work week situation this was in the UK. That's what I thought. And I wanted to see how that 4-day work week panned out. And apparently people really liked having the 4-day work week. This is according to the UK. A survey said that 78% of leaders at the more than 70 UK companies that did that 4-day week really liked it. They said that it was good, or it was a seamless transition from the 4-day work week to the 5-day work week. So that's something for you entrepreneurs and owners to think about. Maybe it's something that you can do. I don't know that I want to work. I don't know. I like my job, so it's tough. It's a tough call. Does it mean that I want to do 4 10-hour days? Maybe, but I'm not too sure about that. That's a long day. And do you want to be so exhausted that you can't function on your first of your 3 days off? I don't know. It's just something to think about. Now, we are still, even though inflation has gone down, it is still at around 7%, which is still a 40-year high. So part of one of the symptoms of that, as far as the economy is concerned, is people using their debt more than they did before, which is a bad thing. The more debt you go into, it affects your net worth, it affects your credit score, it affects how much you're going to pay for other items, for other credit. So you got to be really careful. So here's some tips on avoiding using your debt too much when times get tight. So for example, you don't want to keep spending the same way you always spent. Pay attention to your budget. Make sure you're determining what's a need versus what is a want, and make some adjustments because we are paying more for the same items. So we may have to cut some things. The second thing is, the second thing is avoid relying on your credit limit Oh, this is so very true. Got to be careful about your credit limit, and you really want to save where you can. Remember, if you use 30% or more of your available credit, that is going to lower your credit score. So it's something for you to continue to think about. Also, when you are applying for other credit or applying for a higher credit limit, that's called a hard inquiry on your credit report, and that can also take your credit score down. So you want to be mindful of that. Connected, but not exactly the same thing. Beware of carrying a balance on a high interest credit card. Ideally, if it's anything over like 10%, you want to pay that off. Ideally, you want to pay your credit cards off at the end of the month anyway. But this is especially so when you have high interest over 10% or more. And then, of course, you want to stop racking up late fees if at all possible. These late fees usually start at like $30, and that is a lot of money. They can be as much as $41. That's a lot of money. Be careful about that. And then finally, think twice about cash advances. That is literally the most expensive credit move that you can make, is to do a cash advance or take a short-term loan off of a credit card. It is always very, very expensive. So you want to be wary and mindful of doing that. We are up against a commercial break. Actually, I'm 2 minutes late. We'll be back with John Egan on the other side of the break.
Want a dependable career instead of a job? TaxMama is here for you. You can become an IRS enrolled agent and learn everything there is to know about tax practice and law with the TaxMama. Right now, log on to IRSexams.school to explore a sample class. The TaxMama IRS enrolled agent course is accredited by the Internal Revenue Service for continuing education and may be paid by unemployment or social services agencies. Why wait? Don't just get a job. Get a career by becoming an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama today. Visit IRSexams.school now.
Repair your credit for only $299 one time. If you have high interest rates or credit card lates, bankruptcies, repossessions, slow pays, or student loan debts, don't hesitate. Act now to get your credit straight. Log on to MrCreditRepair.biz, MrCreditRepair.biz. Call 800-878-1837. That's 800-878-1837. On the internet, it's MrCreditRepair.biz, MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We're in the second hour. Before we move on, I want to give a quick shout out to MrCreditRepair.biz and the one and only Eva Rosenberg, aka the Internet's TaxMama, for being sponsors of the show. I am so grateful for the both of you for supporting Money Talk with Melanie. You rock. It's a little known fact that Eva Rosenberg was my first sponsor when Money Talk with Melanie was a little podcast, and she is back sponsoring the show once again now that it's on terrestrial radio and as a podcast, and I just really appreciate her. I wanted to give her a shout out. Make sure you check out her credit preparation school. She is an absolute rock star, and she knows any and all things about tax preparation. If you really want to get a second career and do it right, you should check out the TaxMama at IRSexams.school. Definitely do that. Our guest for the second hour is John Egan. He's going to talk to us about the stripped down guide to content marketing, success secrets for beginners. John Egan is a content creator and marketing strategist who believes the world needs more high quality writing. Amen. Founder of Jawhawk Media, has been a content marketing entrepreneur since 2017. Prior to Jawhawk, he began his writing career in newspaper journalism, rising through several editorial positions before entering the content marketing business in 2010 as editor-in-chief at Bankrate Insurance. His clients include Forbes Advisor, Experian, Bankrate, and The Balance. For more, check out John at johnegan.net. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome John Egan to the show.
Well, thank you so much for that intro. It was so nice.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Is there anything is there anything in your bio that I didn't include that you'd like the audience to know about you? A little fun fact about John Egan?
Well, I have dual citizenship in Ireland and the U.S.
Oh, look at you. Fancy. I have a bestie that has dual citizenship in I want to say in the Netherlands. She's Dutch. She's got Dutch citizenship.
Yeah, I have to thank my grandparents for that on my dad's side because they both immigrated from Ireland years and years and years ago, of course.
Very good. I love it. Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on. I don't think you can talk enough about content marketing just because it evolves so much because the technology is changing so much.
Oh, gosh, yes. And I think the advent of social media has just amplified it even more. And I don't think a lot of people realize that content marketing has been around for a long time. It just didn't have that name, content marketing. John Deere is sort of the pioneer of content marketing. They produced a magazine back starting in the late 1800s that went out to their customers. And they were teaching farmers about how to be better farmers. And now we're here, and all sorts of folks are doing content marketing, and that's what we call it now. It's a phrase that's been around a while, but obviously the folks at John Deere didn't have any clue what content marketing was because nobody invented the name.
Right. It just seemed like a good idea at the time. And now that you mention it, I'm like, oh, that is content marketing, isn't it?
It
is. So explain what it is exactly when we refer to content marketing. What does that cover? What does that entail?
So we all are consumers of content marketing. You may just not realize that you're a consumer of content marketing. It is any way that a brand wants to get the word out to their audience or potential audience. And I'm not talking about advertising. I'm not talking about traditional marketing. This is like blog posts, ebooks, videos, podcasts, any way to get information out there. And the whole idea behind content marketing is to engage, inform, enlighten your audience. And usually there's some sort of goal in mind, whether that's getting more exposure for your brand, getting more traffic to your website. And in some cases, it can be getting more sales, putting sales in the sales funnel for your sales team. So there are any number of reasons why people engage in content marketing, but it's very important to brands of all sizes these days.
Sure, that makes sense. And because people are doing it in so many different ways, and I think you mentioned some of the things that can be construed as content marketing, but there's some more kind of obscure things that can be considered content marketing, right? Like a podcast, for example.
Yeah, and I mean, millions of people listen to podcasts, so it's natural that brands would want to get in the podcast business. There are any number of ways that brands will go about doing content marketing. You really have to figure out what your audience wants to consume and how they want to consume it. Are they more interested in blog posts? Are they more interested in social media posts? Are they more interested in video, TikTok videos, whatever? You really need to figure out first and foremost what's going to resonate with your audience and how to reach them.
Yes. I saw somewhere that a slide share is considered content marketing. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why I was saying we are exposed to it and don't realize it. So many people don't know what content marketing is, but I would venture to guess the vast majority of Americans are consumers of content marketing in some way, shape, or form. It's hard to escape content marketing these days because there's so many ways to distribute content, and it gets amplified by social media platforms.
For sure. So because there's so many different kinds of content marketing, right? How do you know where to get started? Do you have a suggestion as to how you would start saying, okay, I want to market my brand or whatever? Where do I start?
Well, again, it's knowing what your audience wants in terms of information and entertainment and that sort of thing coming from your brand. However, if you don't really have a good sense of that yet, first of all, I would suggest at some point you get a really solid idea of what's going to resonate with your audience and what won't. But blog posts and videos are cornerstones of many, many, many content marketing campaigns, content marketing programs. Many people are visual learners, so they're more inclined to view videos, whether that's on TikTok, YouTube, or some other platform. There's also plenty of people who like the written word, and blog posts give your brand tremendous exposure. It lends authority to your brand. It puts your name out there and helps with brand recognition. There's so many ways that both video and blog posts can really, really help. And those are two of the most popular types of content marketing. So my educated guess would be that you can't go wrong if you at least try both of those. Mm-hmm. And one of my mantras is fail quickly. So if you try blog posts, if you try video, and it's just not working, it's just not catching fire, then don't keep doing it. Or maybe figure out a different way of going about it, but don't beat yourself up about, oh my gosh, this isn't working. Try something else.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it may be that video is going to work well, but maybe you need to dial back your blog posting. A lot of it's trial and error and experimenting with things, and there are new social media platforms that are popping up all the time, so it's a good idea to keep on top of that and figure out, okay, well, maybe my audience is more on LinkedIn, or maybe they're on some new platform that is emerging, and you just need to keep your finger on the pulse and figure out where are my people going to consume this content.
Okay, that makes sense. I got it. I think I got it.
All right.
Okay, right. So now I'm thinking about all the, marketing that people do for their podcasts, for their products, and all these kinds of things. And I'm wondering, and you see these online all the time, like we have the ultimate marketing plan for your podcast. We have the ultimate marketing plan for your YouTube channel. Sure you do. Everybody can't possibly have that. So, so is it important to have a strategy? And then what kinds of strategies do you suggest, or do you suggest, you can give me one from the book. We want people to buy the book, right? So that they can get all the information out of the book. But is there like a baby step that you can take as far as a marketing strategy?
Sure. I mean, basically you can set out to decide, okay, we're going to start blogging, and we're going to do X number of blog posts, X number of times a week, a month, however you decide to map that out. The important thing is to be consistent with it and use the same cadence. So if folks become accustomed to reading blog posts that maybe you shoot out in an email newsletter or on social media every Tuesday, then stick with that, because people are going to become accustomed. It's like TV shows, and it's not quite the same as it used to be, but there used to be something called appointment TV where you sat down, it was like, oh, Friends is on. Oh, the Dick Van Dyke Show is on.
You just dated us, dude. What are you doing?
I know,
don't tell people that. Don't tell people that. My producer is looking at me like, you guys used to have to wait? No, he didn't say anything. But I am pretty sure that he's young enough that he did not have to live with that. That we always had stuff on demand.
The folks who enjoy streaming services, and I'm one of them, we do have to wait sometimes. There's a series called The White Lotus that was on HBO Max. They would drop episodes at a specific time every Sunday. So it wasn't as if you could just binge watch.
You kind of still do. And podcasts are supposed to be the same way. Like, you're supposed to drop them the same time every week. Like, that's really important.
But I was watching my clock for the last episode, like, okay, it's 9 o'clock. or it's 9 o'clock on the East Coast, so it's 8 o'clock where I am.
Right.
It's dropped. I can go watch it now. And that's how a lot of people were treating that show, the finale, because they wanted to be in the know. Like, okay, well, we're going to find out who got murdered, and it's
find out who got killed off in this episode. But at least you could, after it dropped, you could go back and watch it, and that was the difference, right? Like, growing up, you had that appointment. If you missed that appointment, you were done. It was a wrap, unless it came on in a rerun later.
I'm going to date myself once again, but when I was a kid, Roots was huge. I mean,
yes.
that miniseries was enormous, and it was appointment TV. So I remember one time racing home to turn on the TV to see the latest installment, and I remember like stumbling over a book or something ripped, either a book ripped or some paper ripped, but it was all worth it because I got there in time to watch that episode of Roots.
Right, and it only came on a certain time of year.
Yep.
I can't remember what time of year it was now, but I remember that it only came on a certain time of year, kind of every year that series came on that week.
Yeah, it was, you had to be there because this was, shudder to think, the time when there weren't recording devices to record your favorite TV show or your favorite streaming or what.
I forgot there was a time you couldn't record it. I forgot. You're right. But you're right. So now, one of the things that can be challenging about content marketing is the creation of new content. Like, do you need to have new content all the time, or should you can you recycle content? My understanding is that it actually is good to recycle because of the short lifespan, especially on social media, because your posts tend to have such short lifespans.
Well, I'm going to give your audience a little intel, a little secret.
Okay.
Repurposing content is just fine. It happens all the time. It's strongly encouraged because you want to get as much mileage as you can out of that content. So, for instance, you might be able to convert a blog post into something you can turn into a video, or maybe it becomes part of a podcast, or maybe you turn a whole bunch of blog posts into an ebook. There are just myriad ways that you can go about recycling, repurposing, whatever you want to call it, your content, so that you're not reinventing the wheel over and over and over again. Brands have gotten smart, and they figure out ways to change up content for different formats. And the thing is, maybe somebody didn't see your blog post, but they'll check out your video. So it's not as if they're like, oh, I just saw this blog post. If they're looking at your videos but not reading your blogs, then there's no harm, no foul in terms of doing that sort of thing. It stretches your dollar. You talk about money on your show. You don't want to have to pour even more resources into something that can be as simple as tweaking a piece of content for another format.
Right. That is absolutely true. And I've heard that too. And people don't realize that there's a couple of articles online that tells you how long the lifespan of your posts are. Because I used to be really weary about posting too much. Like, in my mind, I was posting too much. But in here, for example, I've been doing a TV spot every week now, every Monday at 3:30. I've been doing this TV spot regularly for a good year and a half. And still, when I post the clips, somebody will say to me, oh my gosh, congratulations on getting on that show. And I'm like, I've been on that show for over a year, because it's the first time that they've seen it. Even though I post the clips all the time. Yeah, I feel like I'm posting them all the time.
You're not. And here's why. Because our attention spans are short, and we are bombarded with so much online content these days that a lot of stuff gets missed. So if you post it again, chances are you're going to catch some new people who haven't seen it before. And it's okay. I mean, there are plenty of websites, brands that will repost something that maybe was posted 3 months ago, 6 months ago.
Yep.
Well, for a lot of people, that's brand new content. They don't know any different. And it's not as if you're hoodwinking people. If it's, there's something called evergreen content in content marketing, and that's content that will stand the test of time. It'll be something like how to save money on your car insurance.
Right.
That's not going to change dramatically. There may be some statistics that change, but by and large, the same advice is going to hold up year after year after year.
Very
so
true.
If you post that in, let's say, 2022, you could easily share that again next year several times and reach completely different people with every single post. Now, there may be some people who say, oh, I already saw this, but guess what? They're just going to move on to TMZ or whatever else they're reading online that day.
Yep, that is very true. That is extremely true.
Yep.
So this brings me to my next question. And this is always a tricky one, too, I feel like. When you're posting, how often do you post? Like, what's the... do you have a magic number that you use?
Oh, Melanie, I wish I did, because I would be rich and I would be hosting this show. So I'll tell you, there are so many schools of thought about that. I've recently been doing some research on this, specifically about LinkedIn, about when the best time is to post on LinkedIn.
Yes.
To reach people who might buy my book.
Yes.
So it's all over the place.
Yep.
So you just kind of have to try and maybe follow a rhythm. Usually what I do with LinkedIn is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because a lot of people either take Mondays and Fridays off, or maybe they're working from home on Mondays and Fridays and they're not in the office. So, maybe they're more distracted. Who knows? But now that I'm seeing some statistics that suggest because people are working from home, they do a lot of catch up on the weekends. So a lot of people are reading stuff on LinkedIn on Saturdays and Sundays. Who knew?
Right. See, I wouldn't think that. I would not think that.
That's a new wrinkle because of the way our work has changed in the past few years, that there's more people, especially on Sunday, apparently, there's more people looking at LinkedIn content. So I've been trying that too. And it's hit and miss. I mean, sometimes it depends on what the content is. Sometimes it depends on how eye-catching the video or the images that you use on a social media post to promote your content. There are any number of reasons. I have found that a lot of times, if I post something where I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but if I include an image of myself, people like to see other people. So
yes, and
I often get more interaction. I remember when my book, got the first copy of my book. It was what we call a galley proof. So it wasn't the final version, but it was very close. And the book publisher always suggests that authors do an unboxing video. So you unwrap the book and you put it on video. So I had somebody video it, and I put it on Facebook and LinkedIn, and the Facebook post just blew up because it was me, and I was celebrating something that is a very important event in my life. And people Facebook is a lot about that. It's like, we had a baby, we bought a house. It's a lot about life events, and so people like to feel like they're part of that. But that's Facebook. LinkedIn, maybe not as much, but there is some of that too. And the personal stories, a lot of times on LinkedIn, even though it's a business platform, I will see tens of thousands of shares or likes because it resonates with people in their heart and in their mind. And so maybe somebody will talk about, and I've seen this type of thing before where they'll say, I was homeless, I was able to get back on my feet, and I went back to school, and now I'm working at my dream job.
Right.
Well,
We're up. I am so sorry. I am way past the break, and it's completely my fault. But what you were saying was so interesting. I didn't want to stop. But hold that thought. Hold on to that thought, because I don't want my producer to kill me. And
that would make for interesting radio.
It certainly would. It certainly would. I think that would go viral. We'll be on the other side of the break. We'll get right back to that.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today.
Repair your credit for only $299 one time. If you have high interest rates or credit card lates, bankruptcies, repossessions, slow pays, or student loan debts, don't hesitate. Act now to get your credit straight. Log on to MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz. Call 800-878-1837. That's 800-878-1837. On the internet, it's MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. My guest this hour is author John Egan. He's talking to us about the stripped down guide to content marketing, success secrets for beginners, and we're talking about just the many types of content marketing that you can possibly do. And before the break, John was talking about LinkedIn and how, while it's a business platform, you see things that are personal stories that will go viral on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a very confusing place.
Yeah, it is, because you don't think of those types of stories necessarily as pure business, but at the end of the day, every business person is a person. Everybody who is on that platform, there's somebody behind that name and profile. And so we're creatures of habit, and we like learning about other people, and we like celebrating other people, and it just makes sense. So it is an interesting mix on LinkedIn, because the personal kind of creeps in with the business, but you can't necessarily divorce your work life from your business life or your personal life.
I think if it's like kind of associated with your business, like the story you related before the break, where you were saying like the person started out homeless and fell upon hard times, but then ended up with their dream job. Well, that's LinkedIn related, right?
Yeah,
that's encouragement. Definitely. It's about work. LinkedIn at first, back in the day, was like, we're not doing politics here. We're not doing pictures of our food here. We're not doing, which I don't see pictures of food so much, but I definitely see politics.
Well, unless you're a chef, then it would make sense.
Correct.
By the way, Melanie, I want to say I'm very happy that you came back alive.
Yes, my producer decided not to kill me for being 2 minutes late for break, which is a good thing. But yeah, it's a very, like, you want to be kind of serious on LinkedIn. Like I told my students, like, that's the place when I was teaching them about careers and stuff like that. I showed them LinkedIn, and I'm like, that's the place where you want to be serious. You don't want to really be clowning around too much. No. That kind of thing. It's a serious space.
This is not the place for party pics, unless maybe it's a tame holiday party at work.
But, and even then, it's
a little iffy.
If you're going to do that, wait till the next day when you're, how can I put this, more clear-eyed.
Let me tell you.
You're doing.
One of the best things you can do is, especially if you want to fire off an email, and it's maybe a little angry.
Yeah.
And this can apply to any sort of content that you're dealing with. If your gut is telling you maybe you should hold back, then hold back.
Yep.
And chances are the world is not going to miss that email or that blog post or that video. And maybe you made a better decision by sitting on it for 24 hours and not posting it. And I can't tell you how many times I have deleted emails or completely tweaked them because I realized after sitting on it for a while, I don't want that in writing.
Yeah, that was the energy yesterday. But like now that I'll have a more clear head and I'm not fuming.
Right.
I think I might want to rewrite this and make it a smidge more diplomatic. Not that I've ever been there, John. I don't even know what you're talking about. Not that I've ever angrily tapped out an email. Said, okay, now, ma'am, do not send that. Do not click send. Now, what about guest blogging? What about having somebody else come in and blog, or, so that you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting for a radio show? You have two guests instead.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good way of getting content, usually for free, because that person who's writing that post is getting some sort of exposure.
Exactly.
You don't want to rely too much on it, but guest posting can be very beneficial for both the website and the person who is producing the content. And there are I see lots of guest posts all the time on various websites that are related to the kind of work I do, and they're experts in their field, so why not hear from them? And that way you're not paying for content, and it's less work on your plate, unless it's poorly written and you have to do a lot of editing, and then maybe that person's not the right fit for your blog.
Yes, that's a good point. That is a very good point.
That's something that I point out in my book, is that don't go cheap. Yeah, we all want to save money, and your listeners, I'm sure, are very interested in making money, but also saving money. And the thing is, I've had people come to me, and I'm not a newbie, so you can't get me for $1 for a blog post. That's just not going to happen. So, but maybe they've tried that with one of these platforms where you hire people who are super cheap. Well, good luck with that. It many times does not work, and people have come to me and they're like, well, I tried this platform and I ended up spending an inordinate amount of time editing their work. Well, why not hire somebody at a higher price who can give you clean content that doesn't need a lot of editing and that saves you a bundle of time? So time is money. Do you want to save money and then work your butt off editing something that is poorly written? Or would you rather get something that's well written and spend more money on it, but save yourself a lot of headaches?
Exactly. That is very true. Now, I definitely don't want to leave this conversation without talking about keywords and SEOs.
Oh boy.
Those, because, and I should have got to this sooner, because this is the part that I find complicated. Can you, first of all, when I say SEOs, let's just explain to the audience what I'm talking about.
The search engine optimization is SEO, and it's sort of like throwing bait out to get fish when you're going fishing. You want to hook people with certain keywords that will drive them to your website. So let's say you're in the plumbing business. Well, there are obviously certain phrases and words that people are searching when they're looking for a plumber. So this is when you turn to somebody with vast expertise in SEO I'm not that person. I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't know enough to fully execute an SEO strategy, which is it's completely different from creating content.
Right.
The two go together. Don't get me wrong. And there needs to be a lot of commonality between what the SEO team is doing and what the content creation and promotion team is doing.
Right.
But I've had people when I've worked in-house who know their stuff when it comes to SEO, and they're the ones doing that research and figuring out, okay, this is what people are searching for. We need to make sure that not only our blog posts, but our entire website has some of those keywords so that it'll rise up in search rankings. Because the fact of the matter is, if you go to Google, most people don't go past the first page. You're lucky if they get to the second page. And unless you're like me and do a lot of research and need to find nitty-gritty pieces of information, you're not going to go to the fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth page.
Yep.
People are going to quit normally on the first page, and whatever rises to the top is what they're going to go to. So you want that real estate on page one of search engine results, and that's what keywords are all about. It's basically like, who's the cool kid in school? And the cool kid in school in SEO is the one who can attract the most eyeballs and the most clicks because you've done your SEO homework.
Yes. And that's when you start, in my opinion, farming that stuff out.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's so complicated. And like you were saying, you kind of have to be an expert in that area.
Yes. And there are some people who excel at both, but it's very much kind of a right brain, left brain sort of thing. And my brain doesn't necessarily operate on SEO. It operates on the creative aspects of content marketing. So if it's a campaign that maybe I'm working on, there's got to be somebody else who is involved, who is a specialist in search engine optimization, because that's not me. And I don't want to produce content that doesn't generate traffic. And so when I get a lot of assignments for clients I write for, they've already built in what keywords they're aiming for. Somebody on their team has done that research, and I just have to make sure I naturally incorporate those keywords into whatever I'm writing for them.
Okay.
Because if it sounds stilted, if it sounds unnatural, not only are people going to be turned off, but Google's going to be turned off. They have sophisticated algorithms that can detect that sort of stuff. And I use an example in my book that I made up. I don't know if you remember when Lady Gaga wore the meat dress.
I certainly do. Couldn't forget that.
Well, I did a sample blog post that repeated Lady Gaga's meat dress and the Lady Gaga meat dress, and just like the same phrase over and over and over again. Well, it's, first of all, it's irritating because you're repeating yourself over and over and over again. But
Correct.
Secondly, it doesn't get to where you need to be in terms of naturally providing words within content, so that not only do you not hack off readers, but you don't hack off Google.
Yes, and you don't want to do that. Tell me some mistakes. Common, terrible, definitely want to avoid doing this with your content marketing.
Well, going overboard of keywords is one of them. They really have to be incorporated naturally. And I have editors tell me that all the time, that you really have to, don't try to force it. You need to be careful about how you weave those keywords and key phrases into whatever you're producing. And it could be, a transcript for a video. YouTube, believe it or not, is one of the top search engines on the internet.
Yep,
People
that's why I use it.
Google, but that's a huge, and TikTok is the same way now. It's one of the top search engines. People go in there and they're looking for whatever is on their mind at that moment. So you've got to be very mindful of that, and this is not for rookies. If you're being serious about content marketing, you need to have somebody who knows what they're doing as far as SEO. And I think another mistake that people make is they get all excited about doing I'm going to create a blog. Well, 2 months later, it fizzles out. Well, guess what? You're not going to get any traffic if you don't produce new content.
Correct.
I mean, you may have one blog post that does well, but is that really what you were aiming for? No. So you have to be consistent. You have to keep at it. It's like if you decided, okay, I'm going to do a podcast, and then you quit 2 months later. Well, how much good does that do you, and how much good does that do your audience? Very little, if any.
Correct. Yep. That is very true. Tell people where they can find your book. Thank you for being here this hour, by the way. And really great material. Tell people where they can get your book and where they can find you on social media.
Amazon is also a search engine, so you can search for the title of my book, Stripped Down Guide to Content Marketing, on Amazon, or you can search my name, although there are other authors with my name. How that happened, I don't know.
I know. Such an uncommon name, John Egan. I can't.
There's a very famous soccer player in Ireland who's got the same name. So when I Google my name, his name comes up all the time.
Yeah, there's some chick who makes quilts named Melanie Collette too. So go.
I almost confused her with you.
See.
So the other place that people can go is John Egan. It's JohnEgan.net. And as soon as my page comes up, the main page of the website, you'll see a place there where you can search look at information about the book and hopefully buy a copy.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight, John Egan. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in and you missed this last hour, make sure you pick it up on the podcast on 98.7 The Coast website or anywhere where you get your podcast from. John Egan, thank you very much for being on the show. Have a great night.
Thank you, Melanie.
What good is being retired if you're bored or broke? It's time to establish a new lucrative career where you can work from home and help your family, friends, and community fix IRS tax problems, audits, and balances due. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. Get a 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now and get your new career started today.
Repair your credit for only $299 one time. If you have high interest rates or credit card lates, bankruptcies, repossessions, slow pays, or student loan debts, don't hesitate. Act now to get your credit straight. Log on to MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz. Call 800-878-1837. That's 800-878-1837. On the internet, it's MrCreditRepair.biz. MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I'd like to thank my guests this evening, Dana Roefer and John Egan. I'd like to thank my sponsors, MrCreditRepair.biz and the one and only Eva Rosenberg, a.k.a. the Tax Mama. I'd like to thank Sam, who ran the boards tonight, did an absolutely stellar job. I want to thank you, the audience, for listening to Money Talk with Melanie this evening. And if you're listening to it as a podcast, thank you very much. Please be sure to turn into next week's Money Talk with Melanie, where we'll have author, educator, and Safe House mom for human trafficking, Marky Freisner. She'll break down the teen suicides, the dollars and cents of mental health, and her personal experiences as a Safe House mom on the cost of drug addiction, trafficking, and mental health. We will also have Marine and Army veteran Matthew Reed talk UFOs strictly from an intelligence community perspective and how the UFO issue may connect with other national security issues. Remember, all of this is very important because after all, it's your money.